Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, am I excited for this episode of 30 Days of Thought. Self-culture can influence and create culture. It is the character of man that determines our collective morality. Our every moment and the construct of our mind decide our present, whether filled with beauty or torn apart and emptied by hate. Self-culture is each of our identifying characteristics that shape who we are, what we do, and the words we say. Influence comes from our character and is an agreement between two self-cultures or two separate and equal men and women of character. At every turn of conversation, we are either driving to our destination side by side, or we are on two completely different paths of life. Regardless of our self-culture, surrounded by detours, filled by distraction based on our influence, our path must maintain smooth. The culmination of our character traits and how we represent them with our words, tone, and speech affect how we influence our counterparts and determine where both parties lie on that path. Wherever we go, we are. Who we are will confirm in our actions and the impact we have on others. Therefore, our character or internal self-culture will always coexist with abstract cultures in general. Culture is defined as a metaphorical ecosystem of shared belief created by an influencer and maintained by the alignment of the influenced. Depending on where we are in our lives, to share our self-culture or character by any transcription or in conversation will ultimately determine if we are the influencer or the influenced. To step into our eternal and everlasting state of one, we must define our narrative. To do so, we must articulate our character and or our self-culture. Once we have articulated our culture, the ladder of life becomes one step less because we have separated the option to be influential instead of only being influenced. Our self-culture will create culture because culture needs more than one. And we are all a part of each other's story, editing each other's scripts and making everyone around us stronger. Whether you see that as good or bad is up to you. And here's the quote. To step into our eternal and everlasting state of one, we must define our narrative. Yeah, if we're going to define our narrative to become clear on what we stand for and who we believe we are, the value in that, in this thought here is will be demonstrated in how we have the capacity to help others become clear on who they are and become clear on who they are in the moment, who they can be, who they can be in their potential. I'm going to go to the bottom actually on the page. Once we have articulated our culture, the ladder of life becomes one step less because we have separated the option to be influential instead of only being influenced. To be influential instead of only being influenced. So I wrote down there's six pieces to this puzzle. If you look at self-culture, our character, truth, inquiry, non-interruption, listening, conflict, meaning, and the truth. There's in each interaction, there's me and my counterpart. I'm person A and my counterpart is person B. My Character will be revealed in the interaction, in the engagement between me and my counterpart on person A and their person B. How inquiring am I? How well, it's not just of a listener, because I can be tuned out and not listening as well, and be a non-interrupter. I can not interrupt. I can also be not listening and just not interrupt, waiting for the person to stop talking, not listening. Or I can be listening and not open, not searching, not inquiring. So I can, level one, not interrupt. So they could perceive that I'm listening when I'm not, tuned out, doing something else, not even paying attention. I could be not interrupting and listening, where I am paying attention, but not open, where I'm not able to suspend my beliefs. I'm in an emotional, reactive state, or I'm in a closed psychological state, not inquiring, not open. If I'm not interrupting and I am listening and I am inquiring, I'm asking questions. It's just, that's borrowing from the content I've accumulated in my life, the knowledge I've accumulated in my life, my actual degree of understanding of my belief will, through my openness, through my listening, through my inquiry, through the permission for my counterpart to speak, I'm going to go into that interaction, borrowing what I actually do know and borrowing what I actually do know about my counterparts, knowing their belief, their view of truth, of the truth on this topic, and so on, of whatever it is at hand that we're engaged with. Because there's their truth, how they're interpreting the facts. There's my truth of how I'm interpreting the facts through my experience, my emotional proclivities, me, and the truth, where the scaffolding of the truth is going to be relative to how we relate to one another, the constructive versus deconstructive conflict that we have. And the more conflict, the more meaning. The meaning is proportional to that. That comes in like it, and non-interrupting versus non-interrupting and listening versus non-interrupting, listening and searching, inquiring. Those are different levels of being present in an interaction. And this is an example of how self-culture can influence and create culture. There's a culture is more than one. It's me and the other person. It's two characters coming together. It's like a chemical reaction, as Jung would say. Two people come together, both are transformed. I wrote this down too. Character equals origin of my interpersonal culture. Yeah, the origin of my interpersonal culture, my personal relationships will reveal my character. It is the character of man that determines our collective morality. Yeah, like the collective, the average goodness of the human condition is a 5, a 2, or a 10, low to high. 1 to 10 is 1 is low, 10 is high. The average of that will be determined by the lowest common denominator among the highest, right? The saint and the lowest sinner. And everybody in between gives us an average. So the human race is at a 4 right now. Well, all right, that's a bit general and a bit like, okay, what's the value in that thought experiment? Well, what about in my life? My character is a reflection of the average character that's around me. And I'm not making a call to action to cut everyone out of your life or to convince myself that it's okay that I've done that for myself. No, no, no. I'm saying, as Kant would say, if the truth shall kill them, let them die. I want to be better. I want to be able to tell the truth, to say what I think. And if if it destroys someone, not be self-glorified in that, but be there to be to in compassion and love them into reunification, or put them back together, help them get back together. There's a at every turn of conversation, we are either driving to our destination side by side, that's that coming back together, or we are on two completely different paths of life. The difficulty in conversation, honest conversation, is it's going to, if my counterpart can see my contradictions and they share them with me, they can see my blind spots that I cannot see. They're not only going to help me by telling me what they think, they also have to doubly help me by being able to handle how I treat them, which may be the worst reflection of who I am, when they tell me what they think and I can't handle it. So they not only have to have the intellect and the education, the experience, the knowledge, the observation, the time spent to see my contradictions, they also have to have values to bring me out of hell when I embody hell and how I relate to them. And so that if I think about someone else, I have this opportunity to not only tell people what I think, but to actually live in a way that when what I think destroys them, how I live with them, how I relate to them, can help them put themselves back together. And the question is, am I, I talk about in this, it being, influential instead of only being influenced, or being, and I've talked separately about the influencer versus someone that's influential. We can all be influential in how we live our lives. Influence we may or may not garner in society or the world online through this conversation I'm having with you may or may not influence your thoughts and your behaviors in one way or another. But if I live it in my life, I can be influential. I can live an influential life and be obscure and unknown and not heard in my voice, but learned through in my actions. Influence people to such a degree by how I behave that people are changed, maybe not even recognizing that it was me that changed them. And that's great, because think about the impact that I can have by being an influential person, someone that lives in an influential way, as opposed to someone that talks and thinks and influences only. But and the combination of both, what can that do for culture? What can that do in a business sense? Even like if we use a business example, at the bottom, once we have articulated our culture, our self, we've said our self culture will create culture. Culture needs more than one. We're all part of each other's story. So like the founder starts as the influencing the culture with the vision of what could be, the vision of a problem to be solved, and articulating that to the first customers. It gives an opportunity to be influential in the keeping of the word. Like, oh, I'm going to get this done. I'm going to do this. Therefore, the exchange of goods and services will be worth it to you. So the money comes in. Now it's, how's the service? How's the customer service? Is it influential where the customer wants to refer business? Or was there just originally influence where there was a sale and the service was poor and there wouldn't be a referral? So therefore, the business owner is going to have to continue marketing and influencing, selling and talking and talking and talking. Transient clients, customer relationships, because they cannot keep relationships because they're missing certain parts of their character. And that's what the value of this excerpt is the truth, person A, person B, how they come into the conversation, what they see, what they know, what they think they know, what they actually know, all mashed together. How inquiring am I? How well do I let people speak? How open am I to listening? Am I listening? Am I searching for the truth, or am I holding on to my truth under the guise that I'm actually searching for the truth? It could be backwards. I could think I'm searching for the truth and only reaffirming my truth, what I think the truth is, and have a confusion between my truth and the truth. And there's a my truth and the truth, and there is a your truth and the truth, and the confusion of my truth and the truth, your truth and the truth, and then my truth versus your truth of the truth. I'm not joking here. This is what breaks down relationships, leads to only deconstructive conflict with it, me against you, and we are not interacting, engaging to the truth, the search for the truth together. We're unable to rise through ourselves, to work on that, to work towards the truth. Now, if we can work towards the truth, the consequence of that will be a meaningful experience. It will feel good about our ignorance and we will avoid arrogance and isolation and alienation, and we will be one. We will be closer together for having gone in this journey of talking and acting and laboring and working. And at every turn of conversation, we are either driving to our destination side by side, or we are two completely different paths of life. And there'll be those we're side by side, and we're side by side trying to save others that are on the other side. And they're on their side by side, trying to save us on the other side, or trying to destroy us, and vice versa. And life is constant flux and contradiction. But the lesson here is, self-culture can influence and create culture. How me as just an individual, my character, my self-culture, my self-analysis, what are my values? And what are my values? How am I living? That will have a relationship on my culture. The people in my life reveal parts and components of who I am below my awareness. And those that criticize and condemn me are going to have value and utility to me, becoming more clear on who I am, or who I can be, who I am actually and who I can be. Who I am actually is in the way of who I can be. If I think I will be at a certain place, but my actions are constantly undermining where I think I'll be, then the likelihood of me getting to where I think I'll be is nil, because there are parts of me that I couldn't see. And that's what the people closest to us in our life can give us. That's what the critical reviews on the internet can give us, and so on and so forth. So today I'm challenging you to read, to think, to write, to develop, to listen to hear what is unsaid, to speak, to let go, to work on your 30 days of thought. We're talking about page 15. Self-culture can influence and create culture. And we will see you next time on the Culture Matters podcast, 30 days of thought. My question is, how is your self-culture influencing and or creating your culture? Please share this and leave a review on the Culture Matters podcast.